I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write a story.
All right, good evening, everyone that's out there in the world. Welcome back to Words from the Wise, Wise Leadership Solutions. This is season 2, right? And so I'm bringing to you tonight a shipmate of mine, a teammate of mine. This gentleman is a legend. He's coming out of the musician world for the United States Navy, and he is none other than Mr. Luis Lebron. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's going on? Doing well, doing well. How about you?
Oh, man, I'm getting taller every day, bro. Like I'm doing good. I'm retired, man. I'm just, I'm enjoying life. I can't complain, brother.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It is, man. It is. And I am so looking forward to hearing your story tonight, not just because we haven't spoken in person since probably 2019. It feels like, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
2019 in person, because you're the guy that you dropped me and my family off at the bus station on base in Yokosuka as we were leaving. And then we've just been connected from since then. And then I love that you were one of the first people to say, hey, Gary, I'd be happy to jump on there and talk. And because your story is super unique, super powerful. And I think it's an important story to be told. And so thank you for taking the time to be here, brother.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it, man. Luis Lebron, you're originally from the island of Puerto Rico, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up in PR, man? What was it like growing up in which side of the island are you from? Are you from the east side or the west side?
I'm from the east side, a small town called Humacao. Very close to Rusty Roads over there. So
okay.
Yeah, I was born there, grew up there, went to school there. Never in my mind was that I was gonna leave that island to join the Navy at all. Like that was not in my cards. I was just a kid in the island, just having fun and trying to figure out my way in life.
Okay, so coming up through high school and all that, you said you got Rosie Roads out there. And, living on Guam, I got the chance to see the impact the military can have on an island community. Do you remember growing up that the Navy had a very large presence in your community on Puerto Rico?
So I knew the Navy had a big presence, and I used to see recruiters all around, trying to, again, going to schools and recruiting people. But it was never in my mind. Like, I never looked at that. It's like, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Until someone mentioned band and music. I was like, wait a minute. Like the Navy has a band? Like I didn't know that.
So you were coming up in high school and you were playing band. You were already playing music in the band.
Right.
I mean, because you can't just be a halfway musician and go talk to the Navy about actually getting in the band. You got to be pretty serious about your music. So when you were coming up in high school, what instruments were you playing?
So initially, I really wanted to play either the saxophone or the drums. But of course, my mom thought that the drums were going to be too loud for the whole neighborhood, and it wasn't going to be a good fit.
Okay.
And then the saxophone, like the prices of saxophone, like if you wanted to buy a good one, it was $1,000 or $2,000. So my mom found a $200 clarinet. And she said, that is the instrument you're going to play. And I'm like, but I don't want to play that. Well, that's all I have. So you're going to have to learn how to play that. So that was my main instrument, the clarinet.
Okay, so the clarinet, and you played all through junior high school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and just so I keep the story straight, because you are currently you've been married to Eileen and been with Eileen, your wife, since even before you joined the military, correct?
No, we actually, so we knew each other since we were 13, 14 years old.
Okay.
We basically met at church, but then I joined the Navy and we married probably a year and a half, 2 years after I joined the Navy.
Okay, so we'll catch up to that then. So we talk about church in Puerto Rico. Question: did you grow up in like a Pentecostal church in Puerto Rico?
It was the independent,
Okay.
more towards Pentecostal,
Okay.
but more independent, like charismatic Christian stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think my wife's Puerto Rican. Her family is from the island, and I got some exposure to the Pentecostal side, right? And so I was just curious to know if you grew up in that space because I know your faith is a big part of who you are now, and I'm
Absolutely.
just curious how that faith journey travels with you as you join the service. So here you go. You graduate in high school. You are looking at options. Are you thinking college before you hear about this whole band thing with the Navy?
So I was thinking the Conservatory of Music in Puerto Rico is big. So that was my goal. I was practicing. My music teacher was like preparing me to go there and do an audition there, so I could go to college and become a music educator
Okay.
and play around the island and stuff like that. So that was my main goal. The Navy was
Okay,
not
so
involved.
so music college on the island, and that was where you were going to go, and you were interested in becoming a music teacher for the community on the island.
Mhm.
Dope, I get that. And somebody, so who brings you the information about there being a chance for you to possibly join the Navy and do music?
So Unitas exercises back when that was, I guess it's back now a little bit, but back in the day, back in the 90s, like that was a huge thing. Every year they will go down to the Caribbean, they will go down to South America, they will do the Westpac thing in Africa. So in 1996 they stopped in Puerto Rico, and ahead of time they announced, and basically they were hitting certain schools like, hey, we're going to be doing some concerts around the island, and we would love to audition people if they really want to join the Navy. So my music teacher told me about it, and I guess he knew a little bit about it. He said, hey, this is a great opportunity. You should go there and audition. And I'm like, yeah, but how am I going to get there? Like, I didn't even know that they were coming. He's like, no, I'll take you. So he took me to the audition.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah, he believed so much in that. Like he took me. He's like a second father to me too. Like I still keep in touch with him and everything. So yeah, he took me there, and I think if I remember correctly, about 25 people went to the audition. And out of 25, only 2 joined the Navy, and mostly because the ASVAB. I mean, it's the language barrier is so tough. Like,
Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah, it's a big barrier, and if you don't pass that, then you don't join.
I see it to this day. And I was a Navy recruiter once upon a time. I see it to this day with young people, especially ones that English is not their first language, and they don't take it serious in high school, like the education part of it. And then they go to take that test, and they cannot get past it. And you're right, it is a barrier. But I mean, so you just were blessed with the academics that you were able to pass it right away, or did you have to apply yourself to get through that?
My recruiter was really good. She made sure that I had the book, made sure that I studied a little bit, and she was checking in with me maybe once a week.
Okay.
And I took a few of the practice tests, and I wasn't doing that good anyways, but maybe it was innate in me, like something in me, like it's like, well, I'm just gonna do my best, and I'll whatever happens. So I took the ASVAB. It's not that I got a high score, but I got the score that I needed to join. So
did you already know you had gotten the opportunity from the audition, and then all you had to do was pass the ASVAB to get into the Navy? So you already knew that was going to work out?
yeah, like the audition process. So I didn't know I was going to pass until 2 weeks later. They hit me up and say, hey, you're good to go. Let's join the Navy, and you have to go through all this stuff now. And it's like, well, okay, I guess I'm going.
Brother, do you know how much that resonates with me though? Because when I look at joining the service or anything you're gonna do in life that's out of the ordinary that might change your life, and I see people stop because they hit a roadblock or they hit a challenge, and I'm just thinking to myself, there was no guarantee I was going to succeed after I joined the Navy. There was no guarantee you were going to succeed after you joined the Navy. Yes, we both were told get through this initial hiring process and you'll get a job with the Navy,
Right.
right? But then you've got to make it all work. And, I was a high school dropout. You were a person that was having to come from a different language speaking area and study and apply yourself. But we did it. We did it, right? And I think that's what people listening to the sounds of our voice need to understand. Like, if we would have not gotten through that first entry level opportunity, none of the other opportunities would have ever unfolded. And then when you look back on your life and you think of all the other people that tried out, not only did they not make it past the audition, but a lot of them couldn't make it past that entry level, test.
Right.
I took the ASVAB the same day as my best friend. I passed, he didn't. Right? And our lives had completely different roads, journeys, right? And so I think that's so powerful that you were putting that work in. And I find that to be a common thing for people that are willing to take risks to do something significant in their life. Now, especially those of us that have gone on in the service and to go to the highest ranks, because what I'm sure we're going to hear in your story is you don't stop there, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to hear, and that's just, but you got that momentum, right? Here you are, you got into the Navy, so you ship off from Puerto Rico, you go to Chicago for basic training.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chicago, what time of year was it when you went to boot camp?
Oh, this was August.
Okay.
21st of August of 1996.
21st of August, okay.
Yeah, and I have never flown in a plane before. I've never left the island. And this is me at 17 years old, graduated high school. And here I am, like, I'm saying, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Like, let's go. Not even understanding English. Like, we take an hour a day at school of English, but you don't practice it. You know how to write it. You get better and you can read it, but understanding the dialogue, that was, the first couple of years in the Navy was a little bit rough for me.
Oh, I can only imagine in boot camp, right? You get to boot camp and you got all these different English speakers from across just the country. So you have all these accents that we don't even know are accents. And here you are trying to keep up with it all. And people are yelling and people are giving all the energy. And you're just probably like, oh, yeah.
I was smiling and nodding a lot and just following people. That's what I did.
Man,
so
good for you. So do you remember coming through boot camp? Did you make connections with other sailors that were going through basic training, like other Spanish speakers, going to church on Sundays?
Definitely. That was like immediate, because I believe maybe my my division had half of my division went to the 900, not 900, but the what do they call it? Fast division or fast thing. Like they didn't score that high in the ASVAB, so instead of starting boot camp right away, we were sent to a different building to take tests and learn a little bit more of the language and the Navy and all this stuff. Once you pass those tests, which was like 4 weeks after, like most of the people that were in that same class, we went to the same unit and division. So we already had, a relationship there. So it made it a little bit easier when we were in the same unit after.
I remember that now, there being that opportunity for people that were coming to basic training that needed to work on using the words, right, to get the linguistics up so they could get to a place where they could move forward and not be slowed down. And because why that matters to everybody listening is we have to communicate with each other in a casualty situation, in a crisis situation. yes, we all have different dialects or we have different slang or different accents, but guess what? We had to learn to talk the Navy way, right?
Yep.
The Navy way, communicate the Navy way. And I still do. I still write my eights with two circles, one on top of the other.
Me neither. I will never quit doing that.
Yeah, no, no. And the students ask me, Master Chief, why do you write like that? I said, that's the Navy way. You write it innate. That's one of the things they taught me, right? To do it a certain way. So you get through basic training, and when you look back on that whole basic training experience, the 4 weeks in that fast training or the 8-10 weeks in your boot camp division, coming out of that, how proud were you that you graduated and you were moving on, right?
Super. Because the first week I didn't think I was gonna stay there. Like I was trying everything to go back home. Like the homesickness was so strong,
Wow.
and yeah, like the whole thing was like I just can't be here. But then time never stops. So it was just one day after the other, and it's like, you know what, I've been here now for a week. Well, now 2 weeks. Like what else am I gonna do? Like let's move forward with this,
Yeah.
finish this up, and boom, like that's what happened. Like I started thinking, a day at a time, instead of like, oh, I remember my time back in the day and back in the island. Like, no, let's just day at a time, a thing at a time, and then after a while you're just like, oh, I'm here already. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I remember that was where I first heard the saying that the days take forever, but the weeks fly by.
Yeah,
And it's just because, yeah, you're so focused on that one day, but then you blink and you're like, oh, we're halfway through. Like it,
right.
it really goes by fast. Now, when you got to graduation, did any of your family come up from the island for your graduation?
Yeah.
For ba-
My mom was there. I paid for her ticket to be there,
That's awesome.
and she was super proud. Like,
I'm sure. I'm
and
sure, bro.
and mostly because I remember years later, she was telling my wife, it's like, right before we got married, it's like, hey, good luck with him. He doesn't do anything. Like, good luck, basically. Like, she thought that I was gonna not go through boot camp and I was gonna come back home and something was gonna happen. But I mean, that graduation there, like, she's like, wow, like, you made it. And she was super proud.
Well, and here it is for her, right? A reason to come off the island to go to Chicago, to get
Yep.
to see you marching with all these people in the uniforms. Oh my God! And then graduating. So where do you go to school after after basic training? Is MUA school? Is there an MUA school?
Yeah, and back in 1996, now it's a little bit different, but A school is in Little Creek, Virginia, which is now what Expeditionary something something in Virginia. So in Virginia Beach. The school back in the day was Army, Marine Corps, and Navy, all together. Doing the same thing for the different branches that they with the bands there. So
Okay.
nowadays the Army they're in the same building, but they're like on the other half, and they do their own training. So we still train with the Marines at the School of Music, and that's usually about 6 month A school for that.
Okay. So it's a 6 month A school, which I'm sure is probably accelerated because they're probably trying to get you to work on not just the instrument you qualified on, but probably other instruments as well. Because after seeing what the band does, and I I didn't fully understand what the Navy band does or the Marine Corps band or the Army band, but now after being with you and hearing, and then you explaining the Unitas and how they were down there in the Caribbean, spreading the love and spreading the message and showing that the United States of America can be friends with everybody, and we can use music as a way to bridge gaps, right, and to
Right.
connect different areas and to get the point across that we're allies. We're not what you might hear on the news, right?
Right.
We're you guys are sailors, but you can also get up and rock the stage and have a good time, right? Now, I'm curious though, in a lot of communities that are special, there's always this threat over your head, like, well, we'll kick you out of this school and you go to the regular Navy and you'll lose this. Is that a thing in MUA school? Is there a threat that if you don't do a good job, you could get re-rated and go out to the fleet as like a deck seaman?
Absolutely. And I saw it during my time there. People that joined the Navy, and so whoever was auditioning them in the fleet, they probably didn't do a good job of assessing everything, the whole thing in their instruments. So when they get to the school, they'll know if you're deficient on something, and if you don't pass like certain benchmarks and auditions that we have to go through. They'll give you time. They'll convene a sort of a DRB or something like, okay, this is what you got to do. We're gonna re-audition you this day. And some people were not meeting the standards, so they were sent as, I don't know, CT. I know someone went as a CT, maybe an IT, PS. So I mean, yeah, that
So they
happened.
would get a chance to get re-rated. Well, I think that's cool though, man, because that just shows that it's consistent with all the other rates in the Navy. That if you don't do what you got to do to hit the benchmarks, you might lose that guaranteed rate and
Mhm.
that opportunity to be in that very select community. Because your rating, the MU community, is probably one of the smallest communities in the United States Navy. I'll bet you, like per capita,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we have Group One and Group Two. It's total around 601 right now. Now the fleet bands, 9 bands. The fleet, we're about 386 or 380 around.
Wow. I mean, how many MU Master Chiefs are there right now on active duty in the Navy?
Fleet Group Two for us, fleet bands, 9.
9 Master Chief musicians.
Yep.
That's not a lot, right? It's not. That's a very small community. Okay, so you go to Virginia Beach. Are you living on base, or are you living in barracks? Are you living out in town?
No, I was in barracks. I was not married at the time yet. We were. I was in barracks for 6 months, just marching everywhere, walking everywhere, going to the galley and eating there, and no car, no transportation. I was still, when I showed up in A school, I was still 17. Like I turned 18 the month after I arrived there.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So living on base, and you're there for A school, and does A school happen, like, is it quickly classing up, or are you waiting for a bunch of people to get there, and you have to get a certain number of people before they'll start a class?
Yep. You have to wait. Some people arrive at the right time, but some people, like I know, I had to wait a full month before I could class up. So I basically classed up maybe at the end of December before the holiday break, but really in January, and then I graduated in June.
Okay. So after, and like you said, you went to a school that was multi-service.
Mhm.
So it was Army, Navy, Air Force. There was many branches there. How soon did you know where you were going to go after A school?
I think I found out where I was going probably in April.
Okay.
That close to my graduation.
Okay. So they waited until they knew you were going to graduate before they gave you the chance. Did you get a chance to pick for orders, or did they just tell you where you were going to go? Because again, the bands are so small and they need certain instruments, certain places. Like all that has got to go into your guys' detailing process, right? It's not just, you're not just a petty officer, you're also a clarinet player,
Uh,
right? Or
yeah.
or a pipe player. What's the category? Is it like I'm a horn guy, so I play all the horns? How do you guys categorize your people?
No, so basically, each instrument is its own NEC. So start with A01M, A01, A02M, and 03M. So start with flutes, oboe, clarinets, bassoons, and it goes all the way there.
Okay.
So if you play saxophone, there's like 4 different types of saxophone. So the soprano, the alto, the tenor, the baritone. So basically, you're a saxophone player. So if you go to a band and you need to play baritone on a big band back then you're playing baritone or tenor or alto. So because you're a sax player, so that's your NEC.
Okay, awesome. How hard is it for a sailor to collect more NECs to give themselves more opportunity at different billets. Is that a thing? Is that a reality?
It's a thing. It's a reality. However, the only way they can assess for a different NEC is if they're at the School of Music or close to it. So some people, if they're at Fleet Forces band, which is across the street in Norfolk, and they want something else, and they have demonstrated they're really good at that, and the bandmaster kind of endorses that, they can probably go to the school and assess and probably get that NEC.
Okay, cool. And I just think about that from the position of a sailor wanting as many opportunities as possible to do different things, especially when, that again, there's only so many places you can go for the band as far as where they're going to have you located. So where was your first duty station after you graduated A school?
The place I did not want to go back, Great Lakes, Illinois.
You great mistakes.
Navy band, Great Lakes. Yeah. So
I guess I didn't know the Navy band had a Navy band. Why does Great Lakes rate a Navy band?
So if you look at history, John Philip Sousa, he was basically the first bandmaster in Great Lakes. He did a sting with the Marine Corps, but he also was a bandmaster NTC in Navy band Great Lakes, basically. So there's a lot of tradition there, and then that's the band that actually goes and plays for the graduations every week.
So that's the why. They're the ones that they have a band gig every week to play for the graduation ceremonies. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not traveling like the other bands and like performing all around the country or the Midwest or the Great Lakes area.
No, they are too.
They're doing that too.
Oh, yeah. It becomes convoluted sometimes just because the graduation is a graduation, like that's set in stone. So whatever they do, they have to go around it. Now, there was one year that the bandmaster was able to get an accepted policy to tour the Midwest, so they didn't have a band during that time in boot camp or playing for the graduation.
Oh wow!
But that's rare.
Yeah. Oh, well, good for that bandmaster getting their people out there to go out there and perform. Because I mean, again, what I learned from you is teaching them how to perform in front of a live audience is an important part of their job, right? Especially when it maybe is not the best conditions, right? But you're gonna go perform anyway, right? And you're gonna make friends with everybody through your music.
That's right.
So being a young band, and you being a young sailor in the band, I could. Were you? I mean, did it get old playing that same music essentially every week for the graduations?
Well, there was a point where I memorized like the whole thing, the script that they were saying, songs that we play. Like, I mean, after a while, you don't even need the sheet music anymore because it's just you're playing that over and over and over and over. There were times that we had to be recalibrated just because you get so complacent on playing. Oh, I played this before, so I'm not gonna focus that well. I'm not gonna have the intensity there and whatever. Like, okay, more music. So once in a while, the bandmaster, the LCPO, everybody's like, listen, I know we do this every week. We still have to play our best because the people in the stands they're new. Like, it's probably the first time they ever sing a band. And we need to perform as if it was the first time ever. Yeah. So that was like the first time I've heard of like that. And if you think about it, superstars like rock stars, they do this every tour that they do. Like, they sing the same song every time.
That's a good point.
But they know they have to perform as if it was the first time people are listening to it.
That's it. Hey, you know what? That battle against complacency goes for everything in this world, right? I could teach people how to fight a fire every day and they'll become complacent. But then when you have to actually go fight that fire for the first time, if you let yourself become complacent, that may be what causes you to get hurt, right? And
exactly.
So you've got to keep that edge. Now, real quick about your guys' community, the bandmaster is typically are they always former enlisted?
Always.
Very cool. So bandmasters are they LDOs?
Yes.
Okay, so a bandmaster is always an LDO. So that's another thing that I think is a piece of pride. You got the LDO bandmaster, you got the LCPO chief petty officer, all professional musicians, and they're taking their craft very seriously because, again, pride, right? We all have pride in our community. We all have pride in our ratings. We all have pride in what we do, and and we talked about not too long ago how the pride in your mom for your graduation to come see you and to go make that trip every weekend at Great Lakes. That's happening for families.
Yep.
And so for you guys that are doing that repetition, you got to keep that same lens on. But God, that's got to be a tough thing for leaders to keep on the people. Like, don't take it for granted, take it serious. And was that a 3-year billet that you had to do that?
Yeah. So I was supposed to be there for about 36 months, 3 years, but they short tour me from there to Norfolk because they needed a translator for the Unitas trip. So after about 24 months, I came from one of the tours and with my SEL, and it's like, hey, you're getting orders to go to Virginia. So when I asked, like, oh, so when am I transferring? It was September. It's like in December. It's like, oh, okay. So I guess I'm out of here.
Okay.
And I was happy to do it because that was my goal. Like, I really wanted to go and be part of the group that went to Puerto Rico and auditioned.
Yeah. You wanted to get that gift. You wanted to give that back, but also represent, right? Hey, I did it.
Exactly.
That's cool. And are you still single at that point?
No. At this point, I was already married for maybe a year already.
So how did you put that together, right? How did you decide, hey, I'm gonna go back to Puerto Rico and I'm gonna find that girl Eileen and I'm gonna make her my wife. I'm gonna ask her to share her life with me. Like, how does that work?
I'm gonna keep it short because it's a long story.
Okay.
The one thing I can say is that when we were 14, 15, before I left, we both had the same dream, the same night, separate. Like, we didn't know we had the same dream until we saw each other on a Sunday. We went face to face, and he's like, I got something to tell you. I got something to tell you. She said, it's okay, you go. I had this dream, boom, boom, boom. It's like, that's crazy. I had the same dream with the same details. Basically, the dream was that we were going to get married. But we were 15. Like, it's like, what is this? Like, I'm not even thinking about that. So anyways, fast forward to my first leave in Puerto Rico, I think was right after I arrived in A school. They let me go to Puerto Rico in December. And that's where we really didn't date. We knew each other. We were good friends. I went to Puerto Rico and we talked. And that was pretty much it. Like, hey, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Let's get married.
Hey.
And a year later, we were married. It's like, okay, that's how it happened.
I hear you, bro. The day I saw Erica the first time, out at a recruiting event, I was a recruiter. It was actually a JROTC competition, and she was in college at the time, helping her younger sister's ROTC unit, right? But I saw Erica, and something told me, like, don't run any of my other games. Don't try to be somebody I'm not. Just be authentic, be myself, because something about that person was special. And a year later, I married her exactly on that 1-year anniversary. I only got, one thing. So I get it, bro. I think that's very special to know that you're so dialed into the spirit, but you not only had that dream however many years previously, but you kept that same energy all the way through until you saw her again. And so did she, right? That's very special.
Yeah.
And what year was that you got married? Was that like 1998, 99?
98.
Man, now we're in 2025, right? And you guys are still married. That just says volumes for, and you got 2 adult children. And I mean, we'll get to all that, right? But I think that it just speaks volumes for your guys' love, right? That's awesome. Okay, so now you go home and you tell Eileen, hey, we're going to Virginia. because we're moving, or was she already was she with you in Great Lakes
Yeah,
then?
she was in Great Lakes, not having a whole lot of fun because of the weather. She was 98 pounds wet, and she was struggling with the cold over there in Great Lakes. So,
Yeah,
but she didn't even know. Like, we both came from the island, like, for the first time ever out of the island. So never been to Virginia, so we didn't know what to expect. And again, like, I bought a car in Great Lakes, my first car ever over there, and here we go, like 19 years old, and I'm gonna drive all the way from Illinois to Virginia with no iPhone.
yeah,
Everything was, I printed my map, and it's like, okay, let's do this,
yeah,
and go. So
yeah. But no, MapQuest, right? You were on
yeah,
MapQuest trying to figure it out, and even that was new. Like the internet was. I came back from Japan in 2000, and it was dial-up internet, and I was like, "How do you use this stuff?" And so I get it.
yeah.
So you guys are moving to Virginia, and does she know that, hey, we're gonna get to Virginia, and then you're gonna leave her to go on Unit? How long is Unitas?
So Unitas was supposed to be 6 months, and I was actually very excited for my career, myself, me being selfish here, was like, man, now I'm gonna get my pin. I'm gonna learn shipboard life, and I'm gonna do this and do that, like. But looking back, it's like, oh shoot, I'm married. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not supposed to be this excited because I'm leaving. But yeah, that was me back in the day.
Oh, we're all guilty of that, bro. Like Erica will tell you stories of times I moved her somewhere, and 2 weeks later I was gone for like 6 months, and she'd have to get the household goods. She'd have to figure it all out I was
Yeah.
excited because going out to sea, going on deployment it's fun,
Yeah.
especially when you get a focus on your craft, right?
Right.
Like you get a like I'm sure you probably already kind of thought about this before, but your days of touring and playing with the band, those are kind of behind you. And it's a weird thought process. You're like, man, I was really good at something once, and I don't
Yeah,
ever get to do it again.
that's
Like
right.
a tear.
No, I tell people now when they ask me what do you play, I play the keyboard. That's all I play, the keyboard.
You play the keyboard in church?
Well, the keyboard in my computer. That's the keyboard.
The keyboard on your computer. I got you, bro. So you made that Unitas. You go as a translator, and you did the 6 month. Are you embarked on board a ship?
So we didn't get to do the 6 months because this is in 2000. So we were, I think 2000 was the USS Haler that we were on board with, and basically we're writers, right? So we put all our gear there. We go on the ship. So while we are on the way, we're basically trying to stay out of everybody's way because people are working. Well,
Yeah.
we are really, if we're not rehearsing or practicing in a corner or something, we're just there,
Yeah.
So now we made ourselves useful. Like if they needed someone at the galley, say, hey, we'll do that. If you need anything, like let us know. We want to learn. But what I'm saying is that it got cut short because the USS Cole bombing happened. So that kind of changed a little bit of the trajectory that everything that was going to happen. And I think at that time we were in Argentina, and we were basically told, okay, we're going to stay here until we figure out what's going to happen and the way forward for us. So now before that, I forgot to say that we were in coast of Peru or Chile, sorry, and one of the ships ran aground. They're part of the Unitas exercises. So our ship, the USS Haler, had to stay there kind of babysitting, going rounds and rounds, waiting on word to see what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So our senior chief, the leader of the group, made some phone calls and got in touch with a lot of people. So we were able to depart the ship at that time and take a 24-hour bus ride to Valparaiso, Chile, and then trying to figure out what we're going to do over there. So all craziness happened there, and somehow we were able to make it to Argentina to meet with the other ships, and that's where the USS Cole thing happened. And then we were told after that, okay, you guys are going home. We were in Argentina, and we're like, okay, how are we gonna do this? Well, we have a C-130 for you guys, and all your gear is gonna be there, and you guys are gonna go home. So we got home to Norfolk, but that was a 3-day journey because
Yeah, it sounds like a debacle. And kudos to your senior chief recognizing like, hey, our mission is to make the next assignment, to make the next performance.
right,
And we're not going to be able to do that if you guys are having to watch this ship that's unfortunately grounded and they can't just take it off the ground until they check the structure, make sure it's safe, and all these other things. So you guys go voyaging across Central South America trying to figure it out, the band, right? It's got to be a great experience though, looking back on it. Like, what are we gonna eat? I don't. Luis, go talk to him, bro.
exactly. That was it right there.
I 100% can see that. Like that's a movie waiting to happen, right? There's this band trying to get across, and they're riding in the back of pickup trucks or whatever it is. There's a C-130 for you guys now, and then to also think about how, unfortunately, when the USS Cole guy hit, how that affected operations worldwide for our Navy because we immediately changed how we did things, right? And look at the impact to our South America mission, our Central America mission, because of us, unfortunately, now recognizing we had risks bringing ships in and out of ports, and we weren't. And we know how the Navy goes. We don't know what that means, and so until we better understand it, we're going to stop everything, right? Okay, so you guys go back home, and after USS Cole gets hit, is there any thoughts like, hey, we're gonna reconnect with some of these performance states maybe later, or it's just we're standing by until we get told something new?
That was it. We went home, and we just did local performances at that point. And they were trying to figure out if we're gonna do Unitas again the following year because after that, like that was. We were done with the mission, us.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now the next year, well, we're talking now 2001. So we did do the Caribbean phase, which happened springtime around there. We were able to go then. Well, I was taking off the group because at that point Eileen was pregnant. So they decided to put someone instead of me to go to the Caribbean, and I stayed back with her at that point.
Well, that's cool, man. They were able to take care of you guys like that. That's awesome.
But I can tell you, I was fighting it. I was like, hey, I joined the Navy. I'm supposed to be going there. And leadership was like, listen, you have a wife that's pregnant. They need you here. Yeah. We understand family. You probably don't get it now, but you need to stay back.
Yeah,
and I was back.
Were you like a second class at that point? Were you?
I was at that point in 2000. I was still early 01. I was still E4, and I think I made it off that March test to E5.
Well, and think about it. Your first deployment got cut short because of what happened with the Cole. Here they are deploying again, and here you want to go. You've been training for those opportunities to perform, Yeah, I remember I was on the ship. I was doing the same thing. They had wives who were pregnant, and I was finding every way I could to support them because we were in Japan. You can get to the ship, or I can at least get you home for when the baby's going to be born. That was like my thing. And I would have some, especially first classes, that would fight me on it because they were like, no, I need to make chief. I need to get my quals. And I would just be like, bro, like, it's not that serious. Like, go home. So I could see that happening. Now, after 9/11 happens, how does that affect your mission with the band? Are you still in Virginia Beach when 9/11 hits?
Yeah, we were in Virginia. We were actually in the building. I remember I was studying for the rating exam. So maybe because now it's probably September test that I made it out of. But someone came in and told us, hey, one of the towers got hit, and then we went and watched TV, and then we saw the second one strike. After that, everything changed. Like we are considered non-essential personnel. So once that happened, and we got words like, hey, don't come back until you hear otherwise. We basically left and went home, and I think I remember it was probably for 2 weeks at home, just waiting and not doing really anything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was the same thing I was a recruiter, and at the time we just shut everything down because again, they weren't sure who was just like nowadays, right? They thought, oh, what if there's going to be a bunch of people inside the country that start attacking people, and they weren't sure who was at risk, right?
Right.
And so that was what they did. Now, how much longer are you going to be at this band after September 11th? Are you there much longer? Are you there for 3 years as well?
Oh, I was there. My full tour was 5 years there.
Okay, so you're there for a while.
I did not understand why. Like, it took me, I was just telling someone the other day about this. Like, it took me contacting my detail. It's like, hey, are you going to move me anytime soon? Like, I don't mind it, but like, I feel like I need to go somewhere else. Like, oh, well, okay. So they gave me a choice, and I told them, of course, anyone from Puerto Rico will want to be close to the island. So they asked me, it's like, yeah, I want to go to Florida. Let's go to Jacksonville.
Okay.
So
you got Jacksonville orders after Virginia Beach.
Correct.
Awesome. Now, real quick, before we get to Jacksonville, after September 11th, how long was it until the band started getting put to use again out there doing the different events? Because I will tell you, it felt like the Navy, it still hasn't fully recovered from the changes we implemented after 9/11. But I do know that the bands are performing and touring again. So how long was it until you felt like, hey, the bands are actually doing more than just hometown concerts? We're doing more performances for other nation audiences. How long do you think that took?
It was a few months. I
Okay.
know, because we once we came back, we were trying to figure out our purpose again. You know, like, are we able to go out there and perform? Like, is it going to be looked at different now because of everything that's happened? Like, all this thing. So leadership, I mean, again, I was at E45, you know, not knowing what was happening behind the scenes, but I know leadership was trying to get something going, because for us, when we're not playing, when we're not performing, it's like we get really like, okay, why am I here? Like, I need to be doing something. So
I get it, man.
Yeah, it took time. I know it took a few months for us to go back there.
Okay, so now you guys are going down to Jacksonville, and you have your first son at this already.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and you guys
at this time.
You already have two at this point. So both of your sons are born in Virginia.
In Virginia, Portsmouth, Virginia.
Portsmouth Hospital. That's where Lincoln was born too. So I get that. So
nice.
Both of the sons are born. You guys are going out of Virginia or to Jacksonville, and you're going. Is that the 4th Fleet Band? Is that what it's called, or what is it? The Southwest?
It's called Navy Band Southeast.
Navy Band Southeast. Is your primary function going to be Central America, South America?
So that's the interesting part. Like, they're not part. They're part of the region, NSA Jax. Not really part of 2nd Fleet or anything like that. So
okay.
We were mostly in Jacksonville. A lot of local gigs, Daytona, Miami, Tampa. You know, just that area, Georgia. We do play at the sub base in Georgia a lot.
Yeah, Kings Bay. Actually, I saw them playing last year at the air show. The Blue Angels and all that were out there. I took my cadets up for that, and the band was out there rocking the stage, man.
Nice.
And everyone loved it, man. They were out there getting it. So I could see there being a lot of Navy things happening, and they needing their support, right? Mm-hmm. How about Pensacola? Did they cover Pensacola as well?
So when I was there, I think I went to Pensacola once, because that was usually a Navy band in New Orleans. When we had that band, they used to go to Pensacola to perform for, I think they had for the schools there, graduations and concerts and stuff like that.
Okay.
But once Navy band New Orleans got dismantled, everybody went to different places. Now it's Jacksonville is the closest, but they probably go there maybe 2 or 3 times a year, maybe.
So there used to be a Navy band New Orleans.
Oh yeah, and that was the band that had the steel band.
The steel band?
Steel band, like I mean, it was like the best group to be ever.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see the heritage there, man. The Navy, New Orleans, the Navy, the Mississippi River, the Gulf of Mexico, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I could see that heritage there for sure,
Yeah.
man. I probably should have asked this earlier, but when did you decide, hey, I'm staying in the Navy for the long haul?
I'm gonna have to say, well, all I was saying always was, well, if I don't promote, then I don't promote, and they're gonna kick me out, and that's it.
Okay.
But as soon as I was able to promote to E5, which was, I did not think I was gonna be able to promote, just because, again, we go back to the language barrier. Like, our test is a beast, and I was struggling to finish the test initially because, I mean, like, I'm trying to read and trying to comprehend what they're trying to say or ask, and it's like it was taking too long. But I started studying, I started picking brains, and I started, doing everything that I had to do. So basically, as soon as I promoted to E5, back then you can retire with 20 years in E5.
Yeah.
So I was okay. I guess I'm in. Like, I'm staying. Like, no sweat.
Yeah. So back then we were grandfathered. If you made E5 or you came in before a certain date, you could go to 20. And so you were like, hey, I love being in the band. I love being a musician in the Navy. And no matter, it wasn't going to be for you about the highest rank. It was about you loved the job. You loved essentially the career you chose.
Right.
Man, I appreciate that a lot because I think a lot of people would get frustrated. And your guys' community is tough advancement. And it's not even so much, I mean, not only did you have the challenge of the language barrier, but it's like they're only advancing a small percentage of people as well. So you got to like smoke that test, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like they're only promoting so many from this NEC and that NEC. No, it's all the MUs.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
oh,
tough.
Man. Have you ever sat the Advancement Examination Development Conference for your rate?
4 times.
I mean, I would assume you have to, right? Because you guys are not that big of a community. So.
Well, there are actually people that never, like, they go all the way to Mass Chief and they're never afforded the opportunity just because of whatever is going on wherever they at.
Yeah.
But like the first time I went there, like my eyes and my mind was blown. Like, whoa, what is this? Because it's not easy.
Yeah, I can only. That was one thing I never did. So, all right, so you're in Jacksonville. You got the family now. You got the 2 kids. You're playing the band. You're a second-class petty officer at this point. What is the biggest leadership challenge you're looking at and at life at that stage? Are you like a leader of other MUs at that point? Are you like an LPO already? Are you what's the challenge for you, Mr. Luis LeBron, MU2 LeBron in Jacksonville, that when you look back on that stage in your life?
So Jacksonville opened the doors for me. Like they gave me a lot of opportunities. But so in our community, you don't become an LPO until you reach E6. Command LPO basically. Now we call the leader of a specific group, like a brass quintet or a woodwind quintet or a rod band, we call them unit leaders, but they're basically the LPO of that unit.
Okay.
So I was never asking for it. Like, I was just having too much fun playing my instrument, and I was like, hey, just let me play. I don't really care about leading anyone or doing anything, whatever, but just let me play.
Mm-hmm.
However, a lot of people there knew my backstory and where I was before. And Unitas, because of what I did there, and all they were reading my evals, they're like, no, this guy needs to be put in a leadership position. So they came to me out of nowhere and said, hey, we want you to be leading this rock band. And I'm like, but wait a minute, I don't have the NEC, because that's not the other thing. You go back to school to get a specific NEC to be a unit leader. Mm-hmm. So they're like, no, but you have the experience. You've been to South America, you've been there, done that. So we think you're going to be good at that. It's like, okay, if you think so, like, you're the one putting me in that position. I don't want to hear it. Like, if something happens, I don't, it's not my fault. So anyways, So first leadership challenge for me, because I was not believing in myself yet, and they put me in this position. I just started like looking at my sailors. Okay, you were in the Army before. You have led groups in the Army before. Now you're in the Navy. Same pay rate as me. So I'm going to put you as my rehearsal director. Cool. You over there, you're going to be doing. So I started kind of like giving out jobs. And then I told him, okay, I'm the one that's going to be talking to the sponsor and setting up everything. So when we go to a place, I know where to go and have to do it and all this stuff. So I think that helped me out because people saw that they had a saying and they were part of a group. It's not like me leading and I don't want anyone's input. You know, I knew my weaknesses. So I'm like, you know, you're strong in this, you're strong in this, you're strong in this. Let's just work together as a team and make it happen.
Right.
And yeah, that was my first leadership thing.
It's awesome, man. That's I mean, well done, well said. Collaboration was key, right? You would and you delegated, you shared the responsibility, you leveraged their strengths. Textbook. All of that was textbook. And my favorite part of that story was people saw the potential that you had. And this is what we're so good at in the Navy. I mean, I was talking to somebody last night on a podcast, and him and I were talking very similarly. And I was like, the Navy trains us to figure out very quickly if somebody's got potential, and then we start to work with them and give them opportunities even before they're ready for it, because we understand that time goes by so quick and they're going to be up, and now is the best time to get prepared. And that's exactly what especially around E5, right? E5, E6.
Yeah.
That's just kind of when it comes your way. And the only other thing is sometimes you just got to get up to bat and take a swing, right? That's the only way you can really learn. So, okay, so you do Jacksonville. You're a leader now. What are you thinking about doing after Jacksonville? Are you thinking about going bandmaster? Are you thinking about trying to become an LDO? Like what is the big ideas now as you're looking at your career, because you're successfully leading? I know the logical next step is, well, I'd like to make more money at some point. Like that's promotion.
Yeah. So again, like I've never looked at myself as, you know, like this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do everything possible to get there. I was always not worrying about the noise around me. I was always kind of like, okay, where do I need to be so I don't get in trouble? Okay, I need to be there. Okay, you're giving me this task to do. I'm going to do it the best I can so no one comes after me saying, you half-assed that or you did that. It's like, no, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability so no one can say anything bad about me. So that was my mentality. But again, other people in leadership position, my supervisors and everybody was seeing more things for me. So my bandmaster and my then SEL, who I have deployed previously in Unitas, was there now. They were trying to push me to submit an LDO package, and I'm like, what? I mean, don't I need like a degree? Don't I need like all these things? Like, no, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. Let's work on this. So I'm like, okay. So again, pushing me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this because someone is pushing me. So yeah, I started working on that, and the next thing I know, they are talking on my behalf for me to go back to C school for advanced training. And now at this point, the school has two different things. So you go back to school twice after boot camp. Right. You go to a unit class where you get a specific NEC for that. And then you go back once you make first class or chief to go to an advanced course where you get a different NEC, which is the bandmaster NEC. Okay. Well, because of all of this, they were able to make some phone calls, and I never went to the first one there. I skipped that one because they told everybody, no, he needs to skip that. He's done that already. He's good. He doesn't need that. He needs to go to this one. So the next thing I know, I'm going to the school from Jacksonville, and I'm like, time out. I didn't do that. It's like, you don't need it. Let's go. Come on. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if something happens, so you. But it worked out.
Was that school back in Virginia Beach as well?
Yeah, it's the same building,
Same
same place.
schoolhouse, all that.
So basically, when the people that are going through C school, you know, C school is where you do a lot of conducting, a lot of leadership things. So the people going through boot camp are the people playing in the band while you conduct them. So it's
Right.
kind of like, A school is getting something and we're getting something from it. So
Awesome. Okay, I can see that. And when you come out of that C school, and now you're essentially you're a coded bandmaster, if you will, which means you can probably cover for that LDO officer, or you can lead that space. Are you guaranteed you're going to go to a different set of orders now after Jacksonville? Or are they trying to get you that bandmaster NEC, and they're trying to keep you in Jacksonville?
no, so yeah, once it's PCS orders out of Jacksonville to C school because C school back then was 9 months long.
Ooh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, now it's a little bit different. It's less, but so I got PCS orders to go to school for about a year with the family, and at this point, I left Jacksonville as a first class now.
Okay.
Made it at 07, and then go there, submitted my LDO package, did not get selected there. And then I get orders to go to Italy, Naples, Italy, which it was part of my dream sheet. I was like, yeah, I would love to go overseas. So yeah, I was giving orders right after I graduated and went to Naples. And at this point, we're talking 2010 now.
I was wondering when Europe was going to hit. I knew you went to Europe at some point, and I knew you had a very good tour in Europe, because I remember a lot of people would talk about the stuff that you guys did in Europe together, right?
Right.
We were in Japan, and you had buddies that you had served with in Europe that were talking about Europe stuff. So
Yep.
you go to Naples, you go there as a first class petty officer. I guess first question was, how was the culture shock for like Eileen, the boys, yourself, going from Florida, going from Virginia, which was almost like a second home at this point, to Italy? Was it different than Japan? Was Italy an easier transition? I mean, it was your first transition, and your kids were how old at that point? They were little, right?
They were now, my oldest was about 9,
Okay, yeah, so they're pretty young.
and youngest
Elementary
was
school,
7. Yep.
yeah. So Dode Elementary School.
Yep. And we lived right across the street from the school, so it was really easy, really easy.
That's my favorite part about overseas duty, man. It's a simple life, right? It's a
Yep.
very simple life. It can be a fishbowl, but simple life. So when you get over there, sponsorship is probably pretty good, right? The band usually does a pretty good job taking care of people.
Yeah, I mean immediately as soon as we arrive, they know that they have to keep whoever is new awake until like late at night so they can go to bed and
Yeah.
wake up at the regular time. So they took us to this pizza restaurant that I was like, wow. They were asking us, hey, you want pizza? I said, yeah, I'll take a slice. No, we're gonna order you a pizza. It's like, are you kidding me? Like a big pizza for me? Like you're not?
Yeah.
No, they're not that big. They're like, I ended up eating the whole thing, and it was like, wow, because I
Yeah.
mean, it's Italian. It's Italian pizza. It's not like American pizza.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first thing over there in Italy. It was awesome. I mean, like everybody, not everybody, but most people from the band like went there that night to greet us, to meet us. Even if we didn't know like they were so welcoming to all of us. So
That's awesome, man. How long did it take you guys to get into housing? Do you remember? Was it like Japan where you had to wait a little while, or was housing pretty quick?
it was quick. I want to say our sponsor took care of us, and we were able to arrive and go directly to housing,
Very cool.
which is rare too. Because I mean, I was expecting at least a week at the lodge, but no, we were right in there.
Yeah, that transition is like always the challenge, right? Getting overseas, getting to the lodge, getting through all the in brief, the area orientation conversations, learning the customs, and before you can finally start going to work. And so, what was the mission for you there as the band? Are you guys touring in just in the whole EURCOM area?
So the band is about 45 enlisted, well, 50 at that point. And our AOR is basically Europe and Africa. So
Wow.
yeah, it's big. So we always had a group going to Africa Partnership Station every year, basically. And back then, they will fly into somewhere, and then they will go on a ship. Whoever was doing the exercise at that point, whatever, sort of like the Unitas, but a little bit different. But yeah, well, a lot of challenges because it's Africa, so it's not like they have everything and you can connect your equipment everywhere. Like sometimes they don't have power, so we have to adjust our set and our thing to acoustic and figure something out like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a challenge over there too. It was interesting.
So as a first class, and now you got the bandmaster NEC, were you ever tasked with taking a group to like the African continent or to anywhere out there on your own, where you were the lead guy?
So they immediately told me that I was going to be the command LPO. I arrived and it's like, but wait a minute, I don't even know the area. Like, how am I going to be LPO? Yeah, we don't have anyone else, so it's you. It's like, okay, it is me. So my first year there, I didn't really travel outside because they needed me to be local and kind of manage the sailors and the day-to-day thing.
Okay.
So basically, the year after, I only served LPO, I want to say maybe 10 months, and then I popped for chief. And I think that was my second look, which was crazy to me. It's like, I don't understand. Like,
okay, so hold on. So the year you were up for chief, you didn't do like all this whole putting my package in and like all these things. It just, you make chief and you're like, what? Is that what happened?
So, I mean, of course, I'm a board, but the thing is, I didn't think that I was competitive enough to like make chief. Like I thought, to me, that was too early still. But that was a year that usually MUCs, they select maybe 4 or 5, and that was a rare year that they make 10 of them.
Okay.
So I always think that I was the last one to get through because I was like, man, there's no way that I was like up there with all these people, you know. But yeah, I ended up being selected, and then at this point, I was still submitting LDO packages and not getting selected. But as soon as I selected and I went through, the first thing they did that year was the academy, the classroom stuff. So going through that the first week, I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do.
Oh, so when you were going through initiation, that was when you were like, oh, this is where I want to be?
Yeah, I don't want to be an LDO. I want to be there with the sailor, helping out and doing all the technical stuff. Like LDO will take me away from all that stuff and do other things, you know, like.
Yeah. So when you went through Chiefs initiation, when you went through Chiefs initiation as an MU, did you go through it with the band? I mean, with the bass, like the whole big bass Chiefs
that year we did it with the whole region. So like the different bases, we were all together.
Okay, so I mean, I imagine that had to have been a lot of fun for you, getting to really know a lot of your peers from a bunch of different warfare. I mean, you get to know people in the community, you get to know people like at events, but going through initiation, you really get to know people.
It was nerve-wracking. Like I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. They're gonna make fun of me and this and that, blah blah. You know, like the usual. You don't know what you don't know, and I was very nervous because we usually in our community, and I learned later, and I tell my junior sailors now, it's like, listen, you need to go out. Like it cannot be when you make chief just because you're in that situation that you start to go out and network. Like you need to do it early. So that was the thing that I didn't have, that I was never outside of my community until initiation. And
Yeah.
I grew a lot during that time.
And that happens to a lot of us, man. I was talking to somebody the other day, up until I made chief, I was an engineer, right? And I just focused on engineering. When I made chief, they really made me learn the rest of the ship, right? Because as a junior sailor, I could just be engineering. But as a chief petty officer, like as you know, we have got to be holistically for the entire command, for the whole unit as a mess, because we're a team, right? And when you're
Mhm.
really a team, you care about everyone getting a fair opportunity. And in order for you to know what's fair, you have to know a little bit about what they're doing, right? And
Exactly.
that's how I learned so much about the band, because we were in that same mess for a while. I had to learn about the band. I had to learn to respect that mission just as much as the ISs or the OSs or the pick your people, right? And that's really what I think the initiation process does good, right? It helps us break down those tribal things that we have in our little areas. Because when you come in the Chiefs mess, it's not about your rate, bro. It's about, are you a chief or no?
Exactly.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. Right? Are you a chief or no? Yeah, I'm a chief. I'm a chief.
Yeah.
Right? Good. Right? You get it. You got it. Moving on. So when you look back at your initiation and you think back on how that whole thing went for you, do you have any big takeaways from your initiation that were just like these big like aha moments that really helped you? Besides, so number one, it sounds like, hey, I don't want to go LDO. And what's funny? I did the same thing. When I made chief, I was taking the test for LDO purposes, wasn't even up for chief. When I made chief, I was like, oh, this is me all day. I don't want to be, I don't care about the money. I care about what these guys are telling me, which is deck plate leadership, which is take care of the sailors, and I love being initiated, right? Like, I'm not giving that away, bro. I worked hard to get into this group. I'm not gonna give that. I mean, everyone has their choices, but for
Yeah.
me, that meant a lot. That's why I got it tattooed on me, right? Like I'm a chief, baby, all the way. So I get it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
so when you're go ahead.
Another aha moment was, I mean, had to be like, and I think all of us that go through initiation kind of like get it after that. It's like you're always doing the stuff yourself because you don't want them to think that you cannot do it, and you think like, oh, well, if I'm not doing it and they don't see me doing it, then it means that I'm not doing it. So
Yeah.
that networking piece, like the sky opened. I was like, wait a minute, like you mean to tell me that all these people are available to me? Like if I need anything, like they're gonna help me out. I was like, whoa, like I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Well, and I will tell you, going through initiation, it is the purest time, right? Because unfortunately, a chief will break your heart at some point.
Yeah,
They will. Nobody hurts you as much as a chief, right? Well, that's why we call them E7s, E8s, and E9s, right? Let's
right,
be but that's the truth, right? We do have our challenges like any other organization, but that time of the year is always my favorite because I would use it even after my initiation. I would use it to heal my mess, right? We would use those meetings to heal all of the hurts and try again this year. We're gonna try again this year to do better.
yeah,
And as a Christian and as a believer, I'm very similar to my faith, right? Like at the end of the day, I know I'm a sinner that's in need of a savior. And so if I make a mistake, I want to get right and I want to come to Jesus, I want to have that conversation and then try again. And
right.
I felt very much the same way for my senior enlisted community because as long as we can be honest about what was jacked up, we can all agree. Let's try again tomorrow. All right, brother, let's go. And away we would go, right? And
Yeah.
every year was almost like that reset, right? Almost like that reset for everybody. And it was my favorite. Y'all are going through it like right now, right? Didn't the results like just come out?
So the reserves came out. Active duty is going to come out 6 August.
Okay, so very soon, right? And
Mhm.
it's the most wonderful time of the year, and you guys are all gonna have these moments. And I will tell you from my perspective, it's funny. I do Chiefs initiation with my ROTC cadets.
Nice.
These kids learn all the verses of the Anchor's Way. They take it very serious, and they were doing it before I even got there. But now it's every unit does it a little bit differently, but we carry that on into their community as well, and it's a point of pride for them, right? I've got cadets that are like, they don't want to get certain jobs until they make chief first. And they'll tell me, they're like, nah, Master, I want to be a chief first. Because, I still talk my chief stuff, though,
Yeah.
right? If you don't know anchors away, you got to go and get your anchors away figured out. And I think there's something about earning something that makes you appreciate it even more, right? And going through that process made you feel like you earned it for sure. So you're in Italy. You do that. Is that a 3-year billet?
That was actually extended an extra year. So yeah, a 4-year billet.
4-year billet, Italy. And do you pick up senior chief while you're in Italy?
No. So I did a lot of things in Italy. So at this point, like even after initiation, I was like, man, anything that happens after here, it's just a blessing. Like it's just,
yeah.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, like 24-year career, like that's not bad. Like I was trying to do 4 years and out. Like I'm a 24 at that point. It's, it's fun. So I was up for orders, and instead of me telling them where I wanted to go, the music community program management here in Millington wanted me to come here. So they asked me to submit a package, not to be a detailer, because we also have what we call a material manager, the person that buys instruments, that deals with all the inventories for all the bands. So they wanted me to take that position because it was open. So again, like early on in the beginning, like I always say, okay, that's what you want me to do. Okay, I'll do this. I'll submit it. They chose me, and that's where I came here in Millington for 3 years at that point.
So that was how you got your first taste of Millington, was coming back to help manage the materiel for the musicians, like all the instruments and all that stuff. And I remember talking with Eileen overseas about how much she wanted to go back to Millington because you guys loved Millington. I remember you found a great church, a great community, a great church. And I've been there. I sat the board there. So I went there one time, and it was a beautiful place, right? Memphis, Tennessee. It's pretty. Memphis is what's close, right? Is that, or is it Nashville that's close to
No, Memphis is 40 minutes from here, and then Nashville is about 4 hours.
Okay, so Memphis is with Beale Street and all that stuff.
Yep.
Got it. Yep. Okay, so you get there you go there as a chief petty officer. You go to Millington. How was that experience there doing that job? With like now your sons are probably 4 years in Italy. Your oldest is probably a teenager now. Yeah.
So I think before we left, they got here. Let me see. Right before we left, my oldest got his driver's license. Before we left to Japan in 2017. At this point they're being everywhere. But
so were you over 20 years when you were in Millington the first time?
The first time over 20, I got here at 18 years at that point.
So did you think about possibly retiring at 20 and not leaving Millington and going to somewhere else?
I was thinking about it because I told Eileen, like, hey, I know you moved to different places already. Like, if you really like this area, like, we can stay here.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But a year later, I popped for senior chief. And that was mostly for the stuff that I did in Naples. And I don't even think my first eval here made it to the board. Like, all they saw was Naples stuff. And after that, we have to kind of like reconsider everything again, because at this point, I'm up for a CSEL billet, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm at the bottom of the list, so maybe something opens up, or maybe I have to go be the LCPO of the band for a little while before I get my first CSEL gig. But again, things happen for a reason. Everything lined up. And all of a sudden, they're telling me, "Hey, we don't have anyone to go to Japan." Like the people that we had, they did not either. They didn't pass the overseas screening, or they didn't want to go overseas, or all these things. And I'm like, I've always been a trooper. It's like, you need me there, I'm your guy. I'll go.
Yeah.
And I have to tell that to Eileen, like for a long time. Because
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
bet, bro.
overseas, like Naples was fine, but when she found out that we were going to Japan, it's like, what? I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So it was.
Was it just she had done it once and she really didn't want to go through the experience again, or because I guess when you look at Europe, right? I mean, Erica, because of your guys' background and the DNA test, right? She did the DNA test. And Puerto Ricans have a lot of like Mediterranean DNA,
Right.
right? So in her mind, going to Italy, going to Spain, going to Portugal, that would be almost like fun because it's like visiting part of your guys' Spanish past or whatever it is. Japan, she was like, the first time I told her she was going to Japan, she was like on the phone, like, you better not, like, she was upset.
So kind of the same thing happened, and the other part about Puerto Rican heritage is Latino, anyways, like family, right? So being so far away from her mom and her sisters, I mean, like it happened in Italy, happened one time, good, but now in Japan, like that's even farther away. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to do
And
that.
the boys, I mean, the boys are going through high school now.
Mhm.
And and look, once you hit that 20-year mark, and everyone would tell me that this was going to be a thing, but I never believed until I got to 20 years. And then I was like, once you hit that 20-year mark, it gets hard to focus because you're like, am I really going to move my family? Am I really going to do this, uproot them for what? Like, what's we have a good thing going on. And so I get that, man.
Yeah,
And what's cool, but like you said, this is your opportunity to be a CMC, to be in your community, to be the CMC finally, and to be that senior enlisted leader for a band. And
right,
here they're offering you the Seventh Fleet Band, right? You
right.
get the chance to go out and be, I mean, that's a big deal. And of course, you got Eileen to say yes. And so away you guys went to Japan, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We were there, and the one thing she's always said to me is like, listen, I know it's not what I want, or it's basically I'm following you. It's your career. You're the one providing. So if it's good for your career, then
Yeah.
let's go. Let's do it.
That was almost exactly what Erica would say too, bro. Like we would have those tough conversations, and that was why I think when we would go through some rough times in my life, and she felt like it was because of her. That was the biggest problem she had. Was she felt like, oh my God, you're having these career things because of me. But I was like, no, it isn't because of you. It's just because life, right? Like
Right.
we all have challenges. We all got a journey. It's not anyone's fault. Let's figure it out, right? But I can totally hear Eileen saying that just because again, that's the kind of person she is,
Yep.
right? Same thing as though it's this is all your fault. You
That-
did this to me.
yeah.
So when you got to Japan and you got to the band, was the band what you expected them to be? Like were they where they needed to be? Or did you get there and you were like, oh man, I gotta do some training, I gotta figure this out, I gotta get these guys at a different level? What
No,
did you
so
think when you got there?
they had good leaders prior to me, and the bandmaster at that point, he had been there for probably close to 5 years, and because he was victim of people not being able to pass the overseas screening, so he got
Mm,
stuck there for a very long time.
yeah,
So he knew everybody, he knew where to go, he knew how to communicate, he knew, like, I mean, he was wired. So for me, it was like the best thing because one, not only I knew him from, we both went through A school at the same time. Now he's my boss, a lieutenant, and I mean we're communicating daily, and I trust him because I knew him from before too.
yeah,
So he kind of helped me out, like kind of learn the mission and the day to day life. So as far as the sailors, like I mean, as always, like there are things that you have to tweak and you have to kind of like ask questions like, hey, why are we doing this? I don't know,
yeah.
because we're always doing. Ah, interesting. Okay, so let's rethink all this stuff and see if we can do it better.
Yeah. No, I remember. I mean, a couple of your first classes are chiefs now, if not senior chiefs now, right? And I remember when they were hungry first classes, trying to figure out how to get their warfare pins. Remember that we had the IW program going on for the staff, and that was when you guys were working to get by getting embarked, and because you guys actually got embarked on board the Blue Ridge and would get underway with the ship to go hit all the different events. But your first year, the Blue Ridge was not a thing because it was essentially in a yard period.
Right.
But did you get there and immediately start deploying bands to go do different performances around the AOR?
Yes. So I think you knew this. So that we have a group that instead of being deployed with the Blue Ridge, they were flying everywhere doing carrot exercises.
Right.
So I remember, and this is another thing that if you ask Aileen, she will tell you, and she'll look at me like, yeah, you did this. I arrived in June, and already by the end of June or early July, I was on my way out to my first carrot exercise with a group. And she's like, where are you going? It's like, I gotta go. And that was the same week that my house of goods arrived. So she had to do everything by herself. By the time I came back, everything was everything was set up. And I was like, oh, that's great. Yeah.
God bless her, man. God bless her. You know, the stories we could tell of leaving our wives to do those things because the mission. And meanwhile, we feel a little bit bad, but on the flip side, you're down there at Carrot, like, hey, let's go party.
Yeah,
I get it, man.
That's my job, so.
What are you gonna do? And of course, you're going as like a head honcho. You're going as like the leader of the whole thing, right? Yeah, no, big deal. So you did 3 years at 7th Fleet, and that's where you pick up Master Chief. Is that right?
So I actually did 26 months only because initially the program management here, the commander here, when they went there on a visit before the results came out that year in 2019, he's like, hey, if you're the one selected, you're not moving. You're staying here for a full whole year, like for the whole tour, and then we'll send you to San Diego. Like that was what he told me. So the head guy is telling me this. So okay, let me go home and tell Aileen so she can, be assured that we're not moving right away. So I should have waited. I should have really waited. But anyways, so 2 months later, the results come out, and a day later, I'm getting a phone call at midnight my time from Millington. Is the commander, and he starts the conversation like kind of tap dancing around, and say, "Hey, I know what I told you." And I finally go, "Sir, tell me where I'm going."
Yeah,
like I see where this is going. Just tell me. Well, I'm gonna have to send you to Hawaii. As soon as he said that, Aileen was next to me, and she was kind of hearing the conversation. She jumped like, "Yes, I'm going to Hawaii finally!" She's always wanted to go there.
Yeah.
So now again, and I have, okay, fine, I'll go. So when am I going? 2 months from now. It's like, for real? Like, okay. So yeah, 2 months later, we go to Hawaii, and this is 2019. I arrived there in August, and yeah, we were in the lodge for like 45 days almost over there. But
you were in the Halakoa for 45 days?
No, the Halakoa was full. So we stay at the Honolulu the airport hotel right next to the airport. But that's the name of the hotel, the airport hotel.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And did you go to the Pac Fleet Band? Is that what that was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pac Fleet Band, STL, brand new Master Chief. And to be honest with you, not to fast forward all this stuff, but like I tell everybody that duty was hard. I thought I knew because I came from 7th Fleet, and I was kind of like, oh, I've went through this, I've done this, like I know how to manage this, I know how to do this. But I went from a group of 34 enlisted to a group of 44 enlisted and 3 officers in the band. And I had 2 senior chiefs and 2 chiefs. So I went from one chief and maybe two at a time to all this, like the war room and a bigger chief's mess there in the band.
Mhm.
And it was tough. I felt like I was doing that for the first time ever. Like Seven
Yeah.
Fleet didn't matter. Like this is brand new, a new beast, other things. Like, yeah, it was tough.
Do you think it was just like all of the senior interpersonal dynamics and everybody having opinions and egos and oh,
Oh yes.
I can feel your pain, brother. I've been there. And oh, by the way, you guys are all professional musicians and you guys are all professionals and leaders. And okay, so what was the biggest challenge you think looking back on that time? Was it just managing like the different perspectives and trying to get them all to be on the same page?
It was communication. And
Mm,
I think everything boils down to that.
always.
Um, I went from having a bandmaster, a SDL, and a chief, my LCPO in the band, maybe another chief, that we worked so close and in the same step, and we kind of knew what to say, what to do, where to go, and this and that, to a bigger mess where, to me, the chain of command was not really defined clearly.
Mm,
So you had a lot of people kind of like playing the mom and pop game. Okay, I'm going to go to this officer and tell him this, and
yeah.
then someone else going to this officer, and then I'm going to go to this senior chief because I don't like the other senior chief. So
Yeah.
I'm just it was like chaos. I was like, okay, hold on. Let's bring it in here. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
So it was tough, and it's not because they were not good leaders. They were good leaders. Like one of them got selected for command, and he's
Yeah.
now on a ship as a CMC. Like, I mean, one of my senior chiefs there, and I think he's probably the first MU to convert to CMC.
Yeah.
So a lot of good telling, a lot of good leaders. It was not gelling, you know.
Now, I will tell you, some of the hardest leadership positions I've ever been in is leading other leaders. And chiefing chiefs is without a doubt the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Right. I remember Seventh Fleet, every DLCPO was essentially a master chief,
Yeah,
right? Or you had a cookie on, right? So there was that level of leadership. And so you had to be able to navigate through those trenches. And oh, by the way, every officer was like an '06, right? Or like a major a major officer. When I was in Guam, I'm an installation master chief, but I got to navigate all these other command master chiefs that are essentially embarked on my base, right? Because when you're in a place like Guam, especially during, we did, when you, were you in Hawaii for COVID?
hmm
Okay, so probably similar to Hawaii, Guam shut down
oh
during
yeah,
COVID, right? And we ran everything through the base, and everybody that lived, we all lived on base for the most part. And it was like I was at sea on an island, right? Taking care of all of the people that embarked on my island. And of course, there was a lot of egos and a lot of commanding officers and a lot of command master chiefs. And
hmm
you gotta have, but coming from the aircraft carrier world, I kind of was used to that.
right.
But I could see where in your community, I mean, that's a big band. That's a big group of people to have all in one location to have all of these concerns. And then, of course, they've all got their own idea. I can totally see where that's a very
Right.
challenging tour, bro.
Yeah, and then I mean, again, COVID happened. The barrack situation in the island is still. I mean, it's getting better, but it was not good. Um, and when I thought, like when I got there, I started going to the tenant meetings and the CMC meetings and all this stuff. But then COVID happened, everything got shut down, so it was just hard to communicate with anyone at that point.
And you
And
said the barrack situation wasn't that good over there?
yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that. You
yeah,
know, I remember when they also went through that whole water thing too. Remember that where the water was a
I
problem
was
and
gone by
everybody
then, but yeah, it was bad too.
that I was watching that from Guam and just being like, thank God that's not us. Because
Yeah.
as a base master chief, we're in the middle of all that crap trying to keep it all together. So you come out of Hawaii, you come out of Pac Fleet, you're finishing up COVID. sounds like you're probably coming through one of the most challenging tours of your career. Are you tired at that point? Right?
Um, so I was a little bit tired. I was a little bit looking for a change of scenery. But the thing is this: I only served in Hawaii for 15 months because I got the call to come back here to Millington
Oh, okay.
to do my previous job because the person that was there had to go. So I was basically the only one that could come here. I was already massive, so I was not gonna make E10 at all. So it's like, hey, we need someone to kind of like manage this until we figure out who's gonna come here and do it for real.
Man, I bet that was an answer to your prayers, though.
It was a little bit. I mean, but at the same time, in the back of my head, it's like, you know what? Like this, it's not like I want to run from this because I always know that there's something that you have that you can learn. I mean, we never stop learning. So it was something that I needed to go through to learn and to grow as a person, as a leader.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you, as soon as they call me, it's like, yes, I'm your guy. Let's go.
Hey, look, man, I remember Eileen was telling me about going back to Millington, and that was like her dream. Her dream was to go back to Millington and retire in Millington.
Yep.
That was like her dream. And so, as much as I appreciate her being excited to go to Hawaii, I could see her, I could feel her energy, be like hearing what you're going through, hearing all the challenges, dealing with all the COVID chaos. And then ring, ring, it's the phone, it's God calling, say, hey, you want to go to Millington? Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's basically what happened. It's like, okay, yeah, when? Tell me.
Yeah, man. You know, and hey, I was having this conversation today at a group of training that I did and said, look, you ever look back on some of life's challenges and thought that was the setup for the next opportunity, right? If you didn't go through that challenge, maybe you wouldn't have gotten this opportunity that you're capitalizing on right now. Maybe if you hadn't have gotten the Pac Fleet job, maybe you wouldn't have got the chance to go back to Millington the way that you did, right? If you had to make, I remember when you were a senior chief and we were talking about how to make you to make master chief, and we were strategizing a little bit. Like I was trying to learn your community and trying to figure it out. But then you knew, like, you were not dumb. Like you're smart. You're like, okay, but if I make master chief, it's me or this guy who's like one of my best friends in life, and so that's gonna suck, right? Because it means I get it and he doesn't, and that hurts. And we had a connection there because my wife knew his wife from our Virginia time, right? And I remember that being a concern. So it was like bittersweet. And then I remember you telling me, hey, we're leaving now, going to Hawaii. And on that, I remember that excitement. And then you got Millington. I just, looking back on it all, bro, God's plan, right? What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you going to do? So you get back to Millington, and do you immediately know, like, okay, once we land in Millington, no matter what, hell or high water, this is where it's going to end?
Yep.
Good. Okay,
Pretty much.
so you get there. Yeah, why not, bro? What else? What more else do you have to do, right? I mean, ultimately, you've done it all. So you go back and you're doing the job you originally did, which was managing all the material for the bands.
Right.
And how long does that last before you get pulled into this next chapter?
So I didn't know how long it was going to last, but as soon as I landed here, they told me, hey, the idea is that you're going to kind of clean all this stuff and kind of manage it for now. We're going to bring someone in, but you're going to fleet up and you're going to become the next detailer. So we know that, and that's how we were able to do it, because that saved money. That way we don't have to bring anyone else or two people at the same time. And, it just makes sense. So I did the material again for maybe 5-6 months before I became the detailer.
And so when you became a detailer, was it what you thought it was? Like the talent management? Because it's changed a lot in the last 4 years. And have those changes affect the MU community as much as everybody else?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we're very unique. So we have good relationship with NPC. I'm the only detailer that is outside of the Witten building, of the detailer building. like I'm in my own building where we used to have a Navy band in Memphis here, and when they disbanded this band, so we took over that building. So we have people that fix instruments there with us. We have our own person that ships everything everywhere. We have a travel DTS person there, material, of course, detailer. The officer detailer is there with us in the building, and the auditions coordinator. So we have a person that deals with going everywhere to audition people to come into and join.
Right.
So it was so the job that what I thought it was going to be, which I always wanted. I told him, hey, if you need me to be a detailer, I want to be a detailer. That's fine.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be harder than what it is. But that's mostly because there's a lot of things that have changed. Like the first time I was here, I know there was a lot of things that they had to do as far as, keeping a checkbook, making sure they did not go over the money that they were allowed to use for orders that year. So there were challenges at that point, which now it's a little bit different because the Navy is the most they care. The thing they care the most is to have all the billets filled. Where before was more about the money. No, if we don't have that money, we cannot move anyone here and there, whatever. So it has changed a little bit. And of course, technology we have way more stuff now. So we're able to use technology to our advantage now too. So everything's kind of faster too.
Awesome. I'm all for ease of understanding what's available to everybody and level playing field. Everybody knows what's fair to everybody, what's going on out there. And I was never opposed to being a detailer, but I'm okay. I never had to do it because I feel like it'd be a hard job to give people fair opportunities. Now it's better because it's computerized, right? And
right.
But still, there's timing plus preparation equals destiny, right? And I remember when I flew to Millington as a CMC, and I was like walking around getting deals done with people, taking care of my people. And that could really still happen if you go there and you talk to people and you figure things out, because they really are humans there while they're also working the systems.
Right.
The other thing I loved about Millington is there really is a Navy culture there, right? It's a personnel management culture, but it is the brain trust of the United States Navy. Maybe I should say it's the heartbeat of the Navy, right? Is in Millington. The brains are in Pentagon, all that other crap. But like the heartbeat of the Navy, it's in Millington.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it different now with the whole how they changed everything with like the PSDs? Like PSDs are all gone, and now you got Millington as this big personnel center, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that does that feel different on base, having all these PSs that are just, is it a huge PS place, or is it a lot of civilians that are in that place?
There's a lot of civilians here too. And mostly people, like, they retire and they stay in the area and then they go back in to do what they know. And they're easy hires just because they understand the language. They understand the lingo. They've been doing it. They know what to do, how to do it. But I mean, there's a lot of civilians, but there's a good balance. I mean, there's a lot of enlisted officers here, like top, So
awesome. So now you've been in the Navy how long now?
29 years next month.
There you were, a kid in Puerto Rico, not quite sure what you were going to do with life. Maybe a Unitas comes through and, hey, man, I'll try out for the band. Had to study to pass the ASVAB, but now look at you, 29 years, the world's greatest Navy next month, bro. Congratulations, dog.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. And so are you going to be able to make it to 30 for retirement purposes?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's already approved. So I'm just trying to stay focused, because I always keep in mind, it's like, you know what? It's not over until it's over. Like, I cannot burn bridges. I still have to focus and do my job. even though I feel tired and I'm older now, and sometimes I wake up cranky. It's like, why am I going to work? Whatever. Um, but like, and this might sound like a cliche or something, but like I love, for the same reason I say chief, I just love helping out people and trying to figure out when someone tells me, hey, I don't want to go here, I want to go here. And I look at my Manning document and I was like, I'm not able to send you there, but let's talk more. Like why you need to go there? What's the reason or whatever? So
Yeah.
I've been able to kind of like maneuver things like that where either I tell them, hey, you stay there for one more year and I'll send you there the year after. But right now I don't have a billet, or sometimes just something happened that I have to move someone from there early, and I just go back to the city and say, hey, it's open now. I can send you there. So things like that put a smile on my face, because it's like, yeah.
Hey, strategic mentorship is critical, right? And being able to help people's dreams come true, or help them to see through, hey, this, you don't see the blessing in this right now, but there could be one in the future. Just be optimistic for it.
Yeah.
That's so huge. And I will tell you, as we get ready to land this thing, we're getting ready to wrap it up here. I will tell you, bro, once again, I love you, bro. I love you because you were there for my wife when she was going through some medical things and she was afraid. She didn't know what to do. I was on a ship and I was like, just call up Eileen, call up Luis. They'll come over there and take care of you. They'll help you out. And you were the family that she needed at that time when I couldn't be there. And so I really just appreciate that. And I look forward to the day that we get to meet each other or we see each other again in person. Yeah. Right? Maybe once you retire, we can figure that out.
Definitely. Sure. So before we wrap it up, I have to say, like, the reason I love you and your family is because not only did you create an environment for me to get to grow as a leader, and you gave me the opportunities, and you never, like, you were always like, you can do that. Let's do this. Like, you were always encouraging with everything. Not only me, Eileen, she became 7th Fleet ombudsman. And she didn't want to do that, but she did it. And I wouldn't say she did a great job. Like, not because she's my wife, but
phenomenal job. Yeah. Phenomenal job. And I remember when I recruited her to do it, and she was like, I don't think so. And I was like, come on, you'd be perfect for it. You'll be good. And it probably prepared her for what happened next at PacFleet, right? Because she better understood the stressors that comes with it. And I got a couple of spouses I'm lining up for my podcast that I'm going to have on that are players in their community. And I think people forget how important the spouses are, especially in those overseas communities, right? And people like Eileen, people like Erica, they were freaking force multipliers, bro. Like, I remember at least 3 of my jobs that I got, it was like they knew they were getting 2 for the price of 1, because they were getting Erica and Gary, right? It wasn't just getting Gary, they were getting the team. And I think Eileen, she did great job.
Yeah.
And you know that getting an ombudsman is freaking hard. Trying to find a person to be a good ombudsman is not as easy as everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
And so, you and Eileen were clutch, bro. We're clutch. But again, I look back on those times in our life, and God put us together for those chances. And I believe in that with my whole heart,
Same here.
Yeah. All right, brother, here we go. I got a couple questions I'm going to ask rapid fire, so don't overthink them. But these first ones are thought-provoking. Luis, what do you believe is one of the most valuable leadership lessons you've learned since your time in service? And what I will tell you, what I've heard is I've heard you always be open to the opportunity that somebody puts in front of you, and you don't push your way into it. You're just you're humbly willing to accept it. Do you feel like that has been the most valuable leadership lesson that you've learned throughout your career, or would you word it a different way?
That's one of the things. Like, I always say that I'm a follower before I'm a leader. Like, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like there's no ego behind it. And that and the honesty part. Like I have learned that if you're honest with the people that you're leading, like they'll follow you everywhere. Like if you're yourself, you don't have to pretend that you're something else. Like you're in a leadership position, just because of that, it doesn't mean that you get to do whatever you want. You still need them to follow you. So how are you going to do that? And I found, even as a detailer now, I found that when you explain to them and you're transparent with what you can share with them, like they're like, oh, I understand it. I get it. Cool. I'll follow you.
Well, and it shows you're giving them trust, right? I'm trusting you with the truth, and that's just and that's all there is to it, right? And if you can do that simple thing, they're going to give you a lot more trust back in return, right? Okay, so next up, what do you see? And I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What do you think is one of the biggest leadership challenges for really any organization today? But let's say the organizations you've served with, challenges, biggest.
Well, I said it earlier. I mean, communication.
Aha! I knew you were going to say communication.
I mean, it's like the fact that people think, and this goes, and you said it before. Like I've learned that piece the most here at home with my wife and my kids, because you think they understand, they know what you're thinking, but it's not just because they've been with you for so long. It doesn't mean that they know everything. And you know, the assumption that they when you say something, it's going to spark from them to say, oh yeah, I know. No, you have to be clear and concise and tell them, no, this is what I need. This is what you need. And it goes like in the Navy it's really hard because you have all these people leading and you are delegating, and when they don't give you a piece of information that's missing, because they assume that you already know that. So why am I going to go back and say that if I know you know, but no, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know? So
just the word assume is a scary word, right? You assume. You got to trust but verify, right? And you know, I love how you leveraged your marriage to Eileen and the communication that it takes to have a healthy marriage. It helps you to be a better communicator other places. And I agree. My wife is a much better communicator than I am, right? And she gives me clinics daily on how to be a better communicator because, you know, use your words, bro. Say what you got to say. And then today I did a leadership course called Ocala Inspired. And I was talking to the people there. I said, look, leadership is literally communication and influence. And if you can put those two things together, you can lead almost anybody. But if you're missing one or the other, you're going to struggle. Right. And so I think that's great. And for anyone listening to the sound of our voice, again, my man's been married to the same lady for his whole life, been dreaming about her since he was 15.
Yeah.
Right. Like it works. Me and Erica have been married since 2002, been together since 2001. Right. Woo. And communication is the thing. Right. And all the moves, all the things, communication. Okay, next up, and this is a good question for you because you, my man, have raised two fine, young, upstanding American men, right? That have done. I mean, you got one son who's going to be a freaking nuclear engineer, and he's been saying he's going to do that since he was like a sophomore in high school.
That's right.
I remember him telling me that in Yokosuka, like, I'm going to be a nuclear engineer. And I was just like, hey, bro, like, it's seriously. And he was dead serious. And then your older son's already graduated college and is like out being a professional in the world. So my question is how can parents use leadership skills to better connect with and guide their teenagers? Because I care a lot about teenagers because I work with them a lot. And I know there's a lot of parents in the world that are struggling and communication with their teens, right? So how do you think leadership skills helped you, or how do you think being a dad helped you to be a better leader, vice versa?
Honestly, it goes back to the communication piece, but it more when I have a conversation with my kids, I make it a point to listen. Like, not assume or not try to tell them like, no, this is how you're feeling. this is what you need to do. Like I'm actually actively listening to them to see what's going on. Like just having an adult conversation. I started having that with them when they were teenagers. Like, you know what? You're gonna be an adult pretty soon. Like I need to start treating you like a person that thinks by themselves, and you have your own goals and your own dreams. So again, like I take what I do at work and learn, like, okay, let's listen to the sailor and see what's going on. Let's peel that onion back to see what the root of the cause is for everything, so we can better help them on whatever it is. So I started doing that at home too. And I mean, like, they know they can come to me now with anything. Like, for example, my kid just had an accident with the car. And instead of hiding it from me, like the first person that called is me. Hey, I got this going on. And, you know, I'm immediately like, I'm like, okay, let's do it. USAA, let's call them. Let's do this. And then you have to do this. And that's it. Like, I mean, at that point in my mind, it's like, there's no time to kind of say, oh, you did this, or blaming game and all this. So I know, let's take care of the problem. And then after all that, let's talk about it. Like, okay, what happened? How could you have prevented that? Yeah. And we go from there.
So good, man. And I think that, again, I'm surrounded by these kids. I see them every day. And it's the simple things. Like, you give your children the trust to listen to their side. And on the reverse, they're going to return to you the trust so they can, and respect, right, as to what you think. And, you know, as my sons get older, the one thing I've got to learn how to do, and I got to work on this like anything, is I've got to say less, listen more, and try to encourage them to talk, because as raising young men, they don't want to use all the words either. Their communication, they typically, if I was raising maybe a young woman, a young lady, maybe she'd be a better communicator. Yeah. The young men, right? They're just, right? And so, okay, that's good stuff, bro. Okay, let's have a little bit more fun now. Here we go. You're on the ship, and it's a Friday, Saturday night. And we have pizza or we have wings, right? Which one are you looking forward to? You looking forward to pizza, or you looking forward to the wings?
Pizza.
Pizza. All right, I like it. Okay. On the boat, we typically have berthing cleaners, people that got to go clean up the berthing, or people that get to go to the working party and hump the food or whatever it is. What would you rather do? Would you rather go clean the berthing or do the working party?
I go back because I've done this. Cleaning.
You rather do the berthing cleaners? Okay. Yeah. I'm not mad at you for that. I get it, bro. Okay. Looking at movies, if you had to pick between Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, which one would you pick?
Oh, well, I'm more of a Robert De Niro kind of guy.
Okay. What movie do you think, like, which movies is it for you for De Niro over Pacino? What movies?
Casino, Goodfellas.
Okay.
And then when he started doing like the fun stuff with the fuckers and all this, like, yeah.
I love that conversation, bro. That's such a Navy conversation to have about debating the Nero or Pacino, right? That would just be totally something we would talk about in the Chiefs mess. Okay. Well, throughout your career, what was your favorite duty station?
Well, I have to say Naples, and I have to stick with my alma mater, I guess. Like, I'm a chief there and initiated there. I met the whole mess there. Like, it comes with a lot of them. Like, Naples, Italy.
I'm not surprised. You did 4 years in Naples, bro. Like, that's a good amount of time to be at one, especially an overseas duty station.
Yeah,
that's huge. Okay, what was your favorite Liberty port or favorite place you went to go with the band, and then you got to go afterwards and get like some food or whatever it was? What was the favorite place you ever went to?
I got to say Chile. And I think it's because I went to Chile probably 3 times. So, yeah, we just knew where to go and what to see and what to do. Like, yeah, I think Chile, but I mean, Brazil is close because I went to Rio, and I mean that scenery there that was amazing to me.
What's that? What's that big festival that happens down there in Rio?
The
What's that
carnival.
called? Carnival.
Yeah.
Were you down there for Carnival as part of the
Oh,
band?
I'm glad I
No?
wasn't.
He said-
To be honest with you,
It's just very, I mean, it's like Mardi Gras in New Orleans, right? I mean, it's a
Exactly.
great event, but then it gets a little crazy. Okay. Looking back on your career, what was the most difficult qualification you ever had to earn?
Well, I guess I gotta say IDW back when it was IDW.
Okay, so I mean, but you had the Bandmaster NEC. You had to earn. That was a 9-month school. You had.
Yeah, but I think it's mostly because IDW. It was all about me learning. Like when I went to the board, I was the only one at the board. So
Yeah.
4 people coming at me with questions. I was the only one there. I could not.
Yeah.
Like,
and you had to learn it all without having that background, right? At all. And you were learning
Exactly.
about things from the IS side of the house, from the CTT side of the house.
Yeah.
The IDW, especially the program at 7th Fleet, was it was very cool. It was my favorite, one of my favorite calls too, for sure. All right. I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. If you had a chance to pick another duty station for one more go, would you want to go overseas or would you want to stay stateside?
I'll go to Hawaii again.
Back to Hawaii again?
Just because they owe me 24 months.
You said they owe me 24 months. I get that.
Yeah.
All right, favorite movie series?
Ooh.
Favorite movie series?
Movie series, as in, it could be a TV series or anything.
Well, movies. Looking at movie series. I mean, I would accept a TV series, I guess, if you have a favorite series. But used to be movie trilogies, but now you got so many dang movies in sequence that do you have a favorite?
I will always stick with Marvel stuff.
That works.
Anything Marvel.
Do you remember? I remember going to the movie theater in Yokosuka when they came out with the new Marvel movie, and it was like the Avengers. I forget which one it was, but like Captain America's like in the subway in England, and then people are getting attacked, and Captain America, and the whole theater just blows up. Everyone's like, yeah, and like it was the first when they snapped the fingers and everyone disappeared. Remember that was that movie.
Yep. Before Endgame, so yeah.
Yeah, it was before Endgame, but I remember being in the theater and like the whole theater was cheering. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, so excited!" That was a fun experience because it's a packed theater and everyone's having fun, right?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, personal leadership philosophy. Do you have a personal leadership philosophy?
Yeah. I always tell my sailors and everybody around me, it's like, hey, take care of what you own. What you can control, that's your lane. Like, you try to do the best you can in that. Anything else that you have no say or do, like that's fluff to me. Like, you're here. You can influence that a little bit, but like, if don't waste your energy on that. Like, just take care of you, your attitude, your whatever you're doing, your family. Like that's you. That's your nucleus. So that'll be my philosophy.
I love it, man. Control what you own. That's it. Would you rather be independent or on a team?
Ooh. At what age?
Now, bro.
Now. Well, a lot of people have a hard time when they know that I'm really introvert. Like I get my energy from being alone, but when I'm part of a team, like I love it too, especially if the team is like everybody's all in and they want to do a good job. Like that's fun. Because there's no egos and no one is trying to get on top of anyone or backstab anyone. So I think there's a time and place for both.
Okay. But if you had your choice, you'd probably be independent.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine, bro. That's totally fine. And I think why I like that question is because a lot of leaders feel the same way, right? A lot of us don't want to be in charge. It's just kind of how it works out. But then we recognize, look, being a leader is a lonely job. So
It is.
sometimes it's best to go to the people that don't mind being alone.
I remember you saying that a whole lot, and in Hawaii, that voice was there like a lot.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you gotta, hey, and if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So you gotta stand on your business, and
Yep.
like it is what it is. And not everyone's gonna like you,
Right.
unfortunately. Okay, so we got deck plate leadership, institutional technical expertise, professionalism, character, loyalty, active communication, and sense of heritage. Which one of those is your favorite?
Which one? What?
Which one of those out of our guiding principles is your favorite? Deck plate leadership, institutional technical expertise, professionalism, character, loyalty, active communication, sense of heritage. What's your favorite?
I think character. If the character is there, I think everything else is gonna fall into place.
Okay. I agree. I think again, like I said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
Right. Let me know who you really are. Have that character, right?
Yeah.
Have that integrity to stand up for who you are. I love it. Okay, last question. Would you rather lead or follow?
Oh man. No, you know what? I'm gonna say follow just because I don't have to be in front. I don't have to be recognized. I like to help. That's my nature. And by someone getting recognized because I'm in the background helping out, like that is fun to me. Like that is great. Like, oh man, that I had a little bit to do with that, but I don't need to be recognized. Like I'm fine here. So I'll tell you, I'm telling you, Lee, like after I retire, if I don't find any good job, like I can go anywhere. Just tell me what to do, I'll do it. Like that's me.
Yeah. Well, and that's a whole different conversation. We have to talk about that offline, right? As you prepare to retire, because I've got some lessons learned for you on that tip.
Okay.
But hey, all right, brother, we are done. Do you have any saved rounds or alibis, man?
The only thing I want to say is like I'm so proud of you. Like this thing that you have put together, I don't think you're doing pretty much everything. You don't have an IT doing all this technology stuff for you, right? Like
No.
you've learned all this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I am so proud of you. Like you told me you already knew what you wanted to do from Japan before you left, and then you went to Guam, and everything is being boom, 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 boom. And I know that doesn't happen like because you thought about it. Like it's hard work. And
Yeah.
I mean, I did not see what went behind the scenes to get to this, but man, this is amazing.
I appreciate you, brother. And it's like that iceberg theory, right? People see the top of the iceberg, they don't always see everything going on beneath it. And then all of life's challenges, like everything you went through, we don't tell everybody, right? You just kind of got to get through it. And then when you come through the other side, I believe we have a responsibility to share our stories with people to help better bring them to hopefully to realizations that they can find grace and peace and love and all that. So thank you for that, bro. You are a real one. You're a freaking chief, bro. I love you to death. I love that 7th Fleet shirt you're wearing. Right?
Yeah.
I saw it. Represent. I saw it. Hey, I look forward to seeing you guys again real soon. Give Eileen my love. When I walk through the door, I'll tell Erica. Erica's going to listen to this tomorrow, right? She loves to listen to the podcast and give me feedback, right? So she's gonna love to hear the stories and everything. Thank you so much for your time. That was a gift. So thank you. Yeah, brother. And everybody listening to the sounds of our voice, if you like this content, do me a favor, like it, subscribe to it, check us out in all the different areas. And thank y'all very much. All right, bro, we're done, man. Have a good night, brother.
Love you, bro.
Love
Take
you
care.
too, brother. Peace.
Peace.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know